This happened a few years back, just before school let out for summer. It was the final day of 8th grade, supposed to be filled with joy and warm farewells. Laughter echoed through the halls, and students were scrawling silly signatures and hopeful messages into each other's yearbooks. My middle school was enormous, packed with over 1,000 kids. To manage the chaos, teachers collected our yearbooks and passed them around from class to class, so everyone got a chance to sign. You can imagine how risky that was. Anyone could write anything in anyone's book. Teachers tried to monitor it, but some kids wrote cruel, twisted things out of spite. When I got my yearbook back at the end of the day, I eagerly flipped through the pages, smiling at the usual inside jokes and weird doodles. But something on one of the pages froze me. Below the photo of a student I didn't recognize, a message was scribbled. The name beneath it read Samuel Robinson Roman, 3. A name I'd never heard, but one I'll never forget. The note said, HAGS, I'll be seeing you again. That was it, plain, creepy, and chilling. I was dumbfounded. I had never spoken a word to this Samuel, never seen him, never noticed him. I couldn't do much though. School was out, and I couldn't exactly ask anyone about it. I chalked it up to some weirdo being weird, or maybe a prank. Still, something about it left me cold. Later that night, I was hosting a sleepover in my basement with my best friends, Kevin, David, and Kieran. We were hyped on Doritos, glued to Call of Duty, yelling and laughing without a care in the world. The basement was 3 floors below my parents' bedroom, so we never worried about noise. Around 2 a.m., we were messing around on my dad's old rowing machine when we heard it. A sharp, deliberate knock on the storm door. The sound cut through everything. We froze. Who would knock on the basement storm door at this hour? It wasn't just strange. It felt intentional. Like they knew we were down there, or worse, that they wanted us. The knocking continued, rhythmic and controlled, almost like a signal. I could see Kieran was about to speak, but before I could stop him, he shouted, "Who's there?" I wanted to smack him. Now whoever was out there knew for sure we were inside. Our basement had no exterior windows. No, one could have known we were down there unless they already did. And now we'd confirmed it. A long silence followed. Then a muffled voice answered through the door. "Come around to the back door." The voice was high, pitched, almost cheerful, like a friend, a teenage voice, too casual to be comforting. It didn't feel right. I was already on edge, but my friends thought it was funny, like some weird thrill. They dared me to go check it out. I didn't want to, but the pressure was too much. We crept upstairs, quiet as possible, my heart pounding in my ears. I reached the back door, moving slowly toward the narrow glass pane beside it. Outside, under the dim yellow porch light, a figure stood motionless. As I got closer, his face came into focus, and my stomach dropped. It was him, Samuel Robinson Roman 3, the same stranger who had signed my yearbook. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My friends, clueless, started moving toward the door to open it, but I stopped them, whispering that I recognized him. I quickly explained the yearbook message. They paused, unsettled, while Samuel just stood there, staring, able to see us all through the glass. Then slowly, he motioned toward the side of the house. He wanted me to follow him to the window, to be alone. You might wonder why we didn't take this more seriously, but it wasn't some creepy old man. It was a kid from our school. That somehow made it feel less threatening. Still, I wasn't opening the door. Instead, I went to the kitchen window and cracked it open just barely. My friends hovered beside me. Samuel walked over, and I asked him what he wanted, saying I recognized him from the yearbook. "Oh, so you got my message," he said and smiled. Then he said he had been watching me, that we could have been good friends. I lied and agreed, just to keep him calm. But there was no world where I'd be friends with this guy. I couldn't help myself. I asked how he knew where I lived. He didn't answer. Before I could say anything else, David called him a stalker and told him to leave. Samuel's smile vanished. His head tilted slowly, like he was trying to process what David had just said. Then his face contorted into something dark, twisted, malicious. He screamed at us, screamed about how he hated my friends, how we all deserved to die, how even my ex hated me. Stuff no one outside my circle could possibly know. Then he lunged for the window, trying to force it open. I slammed it shut and locked it just in time. He started snarling and banging on the glass like an animal. We were seconds from him smashing his way inside. Our screams must have reached upstairs, because suddenly my parents came barreling down the stairs, half asleep and terrified. The second they arrived, Samuel bolted into the night. I frantically explained everything. My dad ran outside, but he was already gone, and for some reason, they didn't call the police. They figured the school would handle it. They called the school the next morning. That's when we learned the truth. Samuel had been expelled weeks before the end of the school year. He wasn't even supposed to be on campus, but the yearbooks had already been printed, so his photo stayed, which meant he snuck into the school. Just to sign my yearbook, no one could find him. It was like his entire family vanished. Even today, I don't know how he found my house, and that's the part that keeps me up at night. It was the final day of classes, a moment that should have felt like freedom. That night, everyone gathered around the infamous old clock tower at the center of campus, where every senior came to drink and let go. By 10 p.m., the courtyard was suffocatingly full, more than 1,000 bodies swaying and stumbling under dim orange lights that made the night feel warped. For me, it wasn't joy, it was the last breath before something evil settled in. Finals were behind us, but a thick, strange tension clung to the air like smoke before fire. There were 6 of us, me, C, T, R, N, and of course Garrett. I'll just use initials. I doubt the others would want their names tied to what happened. We didn't live on campus, which meant every night we made our way home through dark streets where shadows moved too much and too fast. The city had its share of the forgotten drug-warped figures that drifted through the night, usually harmless. But not this one. As we stepped off the sidewalk, this deranged man sprinted toward us, twitching, snarling, almost vibrating with some sick kind of energy. Normally, the homeless kept their distance high enough to float in their own world. But this guy, he wanted something. He planted himself in the crosswalk like a troll guarding a bridge from a nightmare, spewing incomprehensible garbage with bloodshot eyes locked on us. We tried to go around him wide and slow, careful not to provoke. All of us, except Garrett. Predictably, Garrett barked back at him, loud, taunting, fearless. He shouted at him to get out of the road, to leave us alone. The man's face twisted into something vile. He took a step closer, then another, like something ancient awakening inside him. We rushed between them before something broke loose, the rage in Garrett's eyes mirrored by the madness in the stranger's. For a moment I thought it was over. The man backed off, just yelling now. I yanked Garrett back, urging him to drop it, but he shoved my hand away, locked his eyes on the man, and then charged, sprinting, wild, screaming like something primal had taken hold of him. The man shrieked and turned, stumbling away, arms flailing. Garrett laughed loud and maniacal, as if scaring this demon had been the punchline of some sick joke. We left, thinking it was done, but after a few blocks, I felt it. Eyes, a presence. We turned, and there he was, following, watching. When he noticed we saw him, he started shouting again about how we'd crossed a line, and how he was going to summon something. His words were gibberish, but the way he said them, they crawled down your spine. We yelled back, thinking we could scare him off again, but it only twisted him further. I regret that. Every word felt like fuel for whatever was burning in his mind. By the time we were a block from the house, he was still behind us. Not close, just far enough to be invisible if you weren't looking. I told the others I didn't want to lead him home, and they agreed. But Garrett, being Garrett, didn't wait. He sprinted at the man again, animal-like. The man fled again, disappearing into the shadows. We laughed nervously, shook it off, and finally reached our house. We thought we were safe. We weren't. Hours later, who knows how many drinks in, I stumbled to the porch to grab my door dash. That's when I saw it, the side gate, wide open. The twine we used to keep it shut was cut, not pulled, not broken. Cut, something sharp, deliberate. My stomach sank. I knew who it was. I knew. But instead of yelling for help, I walked around the house, my drunk brain trying to feel brave. I turned the corner and everything stopped. A rough rope snapped around my throat. I thrashed Claude, but it was no use. He was behind me, strangling me with monstrous force. My airway shrank. My vision blurred. I kicked back, hitting something. He stumbled. We crashed to the ground. I gasped, my lungs on fire. But he wasn't done. He clawed at my face like an animal. I could feel the blood pouring. I fought him off, throwing him off me, and he ran. The hospital visit blurred by. The injuries weren't life-threatening, but they were enough. Shots, stitches, questions. The police were useless. I was moving out in a week. Nothing would come of it. The worst part, my graduation photos, scratches, scabs, stains. Garrett felt guilty, but I didn't blame him. Not really. I just hoped he'd finally learned that when someone has nothing left to lose, that's when they're most dangerous.